I'd like to, I'll turn it over to CJ to introduce Kim, just because she knows her better. I'm really looking forward to hearing what Kim has to say as well.
Kim, take it away. I know you have a lot to offer.
Well, I said that I could introduce myself. My name is Kim Kilpatrick. I am not sharing my video because I have a funny Wi-Fi connection. So you can just hear my voice, because where I have the good microphone, I have the bad Wi-Fi. So I'm totally blind. I've been that way since birth. And I grew up around elders because I spent a lot of time with my grandparents and their friends growing up. And I loved that. I loved hearing their stories. They taught me a lot of songs and music, stories. On the Irish side, they were all storytellers, and I just grew up with all of that. And so I felt very comfortable around seniors. And I studied music after high school and then music therapy. And since then, I've become a professional storyteller, and I have 2 one-woman shows that I do. And they are about disability. They are what it's like to be blind and have guide dogs and all of the things that people ask. And it struck me as I started doing more performing and storytelling and creating my own shows that we need to hear these voices. My disability is not a problem for me. I've been blind since birth, so I'm not my disability. It's definitely part of who I am, and it's a proud part of who I am. I don't need to be fixed. That part of me doesn't. Sometimes when I'm sick, I need to be fixed, but I spent a lot of time as a music therapist working in long-term care and in palliative care. And my heart goes out to all of you for what you do and have done during the pandemic. I was asked to tell a story about when I was invigorated by connection and art. And of course, when CJ wrote Tell a Story, I said, oh, tell a story, I can do that. There was a lady that I worked with as a music therapist, and she'd been a former music teacher. And when I first knew her, although she was in long-term care, she could still tell me stories about her career a little bit, teaching music. And she was gradually losing her memory, but we talked and we could sing songs, and she would tell me the songs that she liked. And then gradually she slipped where she couldn't really talk anymore, but she always sang still. And then she couldn't sing the words, but she sang the melodies. And then she was in bed, and I went in, and she was just sort of yelling and kind of yelling out a bit. It was melodic a little bit, but she was kind of wanting some attention and wanting something. And I went over and I sat with her, and I took her hand and I sang with her, and she started to sing, not the words. She still didn't have those, but the melodies she could do still. And at the end of that, she put her hand on my face, and I never forgot. She put her hand on my face and she said, "You're a beautiful person." And I said, "You're a beautiful person." And then she went back into kind of, not making as much sense. But I thought, inside of there, even though her mind was going, there was a place that I happened to touch at that moment. And I think that is the value of the arts in this field, where sometimes we think about, and we have to think about, as healthcare people, you have to think about the disease or what's going on with them, but somehow the arts opens that window to the person that they are. And I think we can bring medical people that knowledge, because sometimes you don't have that knowledge. We're the ones that find it. Sometimes you find it too, but we find it. I find that telling stories to adults and seniors leads them to tell me their stories, and that way I can tell other people, medical people, some of their stories, so that they get to know the person really well. They get to know more than the fact that the person is just lying in a bed or something like that. I've also learned songs from them. So when I was a young music therapist, there were a lot of songs people asked for and I didn't know them. And so I got residents. I couldn't read, songbooks. So I got residents to teach me songs. Now, sometimes they taught me wrong words to songs or other things, or they told me they wrote those songs. And sometimes I believed that, and that wasn't necessarily the case. But definitely, we shared songs. We shared wisdom. I think they gave me a lot of wisdom. And I'm always grateful for that. I always got as much or more than I gave, I think, in those situations. And somehow having a disability, well, having a guide dog really helped because like going in there with an animal, I mean, that was a big hit. But having a disability meant that we were somehow united in a lot of ways, that I could understand them in some ways and they could understand me, that there were things I struggled with and needed. And when I needed help, often even the people with the most profound dementia, if I was looking for something on the floor, if I was feeling around, they'd put my hand on it or they'd do something, So again, the disability in me brought out the person in them, I would say. And I think that this is so important that we give to people, but we also understand them. And they would look out the window. When I worked in long-term care, they'd look out the window and they'd watch for me coming in. And if it was snowy or icy, they said, "We thought about you at breakfast. We talked about you. We wondered if you were okay." And I think that's a good thing because it brings them back into that caring role. They are thinking about me. They are caring about me. Um, I was also asked what's needed to make the arts and healthcare more ubiquitous and sustainable. I think, oh my goodness. I think to get the arts to find their proper place, we have to remember, as I said just before, people aren't their diseases or their disabilities. Like I am a blind girl, but I'm not like blind. Oh, that's the only thing you think of me about, you know? They're whole people and they loved the arts before. So probably they've loved some kind of art form. Most people do. And it's finding that and nurturing that again. Because if I was in a place and I didn't have art, I would miss it a lot. It's a powerful tool. It's important. And as I said, it reaches to the parts of the people that maybe are lost in a lot of everyday situations now. Um, you can adapt a lot of the modalities so that they can still do it. They can still play music. They can still share stories, even if they're simple words or even if their speech is a little hard to understand. And we've seen since COVID, when COVID started and everyone was isolated, what did people reach for is the arts, all those online concerts and everything to help us get through the pandemic. Even more so in these situations in long-term care and palliative care where the families can't be there, isolation. What brings normalcy into that kind of isolation where everyone around you is masked and garbed and all of that is art. Something they remember, some music they loved or literature they loved or visual art that they loved. That's so important. And I think we can really assist you overworked and exhausted healthcare professionals in a lot of ways. Um, Making it easier to do your job sometimes. So there have been lots of times when I've worked in this field where I did music or stories while someone was, you know, having something that they didn't particularly like happen to them. So if they were really scared now of a bath or getting some care, or they just wouldn't eat unless there was music or something like that, you can get us to help you with those things, even physio exercises. Sometimes well, we know if we're working out at home and we need we need extra music sometimes to get us going, it's the same kind of a thing. So I think we can work hand in hand. I think this glossary is such a wonderful idea and the website such a wonderful idea because we can work hand in hand. We just have to understand that we give things to each other that are really important. So you as a healthcare person can tell me things about the person that I need to know in order to do art with them successfully. But myself as an artist, I can tell you things about the person that you might not know to build your relationship with them. So I really feel it's a huge honor to be here and a great collaborative type project that is so up my street. I can't even begin to tell you how much that is and how much I love and I have loved and I always love uh, working with. And I would say working with, but it's not even working with, being with adults and seniors, and just knowing them and sharing with them and getting from them as much or more than I ever have given them. And I'm going to stop there because I know there's lots of things we can discuss. But I just thank CJ and Carol and Oscar. I hope sometime when your exhibit is up, someone will go there with me and describe all the wonderful pictures, because that's such an amazing project.
I will, for sure.
Yeah.
That's great. So we're ready now. Thank you, Kim, so much. Could listen to you for hours. The next person is, I think will speak, Dr. Fraser. Rubens will speak to us. And I don't know that we have time to listen to him because we have to get to those 2 Slido questions and there's only like 12 minutes left. So roll them, Meadow, please.
Hi, Carol.
Hello, Fraser. So I have the pleasure now of interviewing Dr. Fraser Rubens, who is both a partner for Concert Docs as well as a good friend. And he was hoping to speak to us live, and unfortunately that's not working, but he still agreed to record. So many thanks, Fraser.
Thank you very much, Carol. I want to extend my best to the people of Radical Connections. I'm really impressed with their ambition and the potential that this organization may bring to the Ottawa community. Unfortunately, due to the challenges of the healthcare system, whereas I previously hoped to be available on the day and be with you all in person, on virtually, albeit, I'm unfortunately going to have to be in the operating room, and so we're having to face the problems related to the pandemic with the voluminous numbers of patients that are surfacing who have come up with their heart disease. So I'm going to be operating. But thanks for having me involved.
Wow. Thank you for both your work in the healthcare system, which is absolutely crucial. And as you know, I also think your work as a musician is absolutely crucial. We've had the joy of doing a lot of concerts together for elders. And my first question is actually, if you can tell us a story, Fraser, about when you were invigorated by a connection made when you were singing for elders in healthcare.
I've had the wonderful experience of doing this for many, many years with a great number of tremendous mentors in the Ottawa community who really provided us the idea that I presented to you years ago about having to go into this venue, people like Evelyn Greenberg and Garth Hampson. And I think all of the experiences have been tremendous, but I really do sense that some of the most important experiences that I've had is to come out and sing for individuals who have been suffering from cognitive decline. You hear about this repeatedly many, many times, but to be able to go in and perform music for these individuals, at one moment they're doing nothing, and the next moment their eyes show this brightness, and you see them starting to tap to the music, and you can see rejuvenation of their lives. I've had particular instances in being able to do that many, many times in a series of homes, but some of the most memorable ones have been at St. Patrick's and also at some of the other elderly homes and nursing homes around the city. It really is invigorating to realize that you can give something that nobody else can give. That's, you know, when you and I are there producing music, to be able to feed through those individuals and actually contact and grasp their souls is really very special.
Yeah, I think some of my favorite times are when people have joined in singing or actually got up and started dancing. It's sometimes the tears start coming. One second question, can you think about one unexpected outcome that happened as a result of your music concert with elders?
I think that something that was really important in terms of a message that I want to give to some of the younger musicians that are coming up is that I found that giving concerts to elders gave me the opportunity to explore the dynamics of musicality in a manner that I could never do in front of a paying audience. In particular, I was never able to find the zone in music. When you're performing, you really hear about the greatest artists in the world being able to get into that particular point. But because these people are so appreciative, because they are so much in love of what what you're doing, and so non-judgmental, you can throw that aside, and then you can just say, well, I'm just going to focus on the music. And that's something that I never had the opportunity to do. And one of the things I've talked to you about many times is that this provides an opportunity for younger performers as they're building their skill, as they're trying to find how to get into that zone. This is the perfect opportunity. No one's judging you. You're not going to lose gigs because of it. You're not going to get into trouble because of it, because an agent didn't want you to do something, whatever. There is no judgment here. And when you have that away, you're able to actually get to the next plane of music. And you and I have performed at certain times, and it's almost like we're completely alone. The music is just what we're doing. You remember the time we had the honor of being able to sing in the hospice up in Wakefield? It was probably one of the most beautiful things that we ever did, because we knew there were people in the beds inside the hospice who were passing away, and their loved ones were by their bed. They were not adjacent to us, but we knew that we were contacting them, and we were singing for a reason of love of music, and to be able to communicate in a manner that was really special. And that was a time when I really felt that you and I were in a zone, and I was never able to get to that point in any paid environment where I was sitting in front of an audience, or in a major fundraiser where there's a big audience, where there would be people that were judgmental. This is a huge advantage for young musicians.
I think that's a huge advantage for any artist. I know CJ and I have often talked about there's a bit of a pull between pure art and collaborative art or participatory art. And I think what you're saying beautifully illustrates that you can actually heighten and experience that pure art while you're bringing a great deal of joy and beauty to others. So that's crucial, and it's a great place to practice and just be comfortable. Okay, last question. What do you think is needed to make the arts in healthcare ubiquitous and sustainable?
The first thing is you have to have administrators and leaders in healthcare who recognize the importance of this aspect of medicine, to be able to reach out to somebody that is just as important as the operations that I do and the medicines that you give in order to heal the soul. When you have people that buy into that and recognize the importance, then they will appropriately devote the resources in order to encourage participation of artists, musicians, and visual artists, and the like, into the healthcare system, and integrate them as part of the complete treatment of the individual. The second thing is you have to have the resources to be able to perform. I mean, you and I know we have performed in places where there's been, a dinky electric piano, but it does help. There are lots of pianos around the city that are just sitting there being unused, and they can add so much joy. When I started at the Civic Hospital many years ago, there was an acoustic upright piano in the geriatric ward, and it's disappeared. And I think that's a reflection of the fact that we just lost the significance of the importance of music and the sing-alongs that used to occur at those times. And to make it sustainable, we have to get the artists in there, and that's where we have to go after the young artists in order to show them this is a potential area where they can contribute, and it's a sustainable area where they can continue to contribute. You and I both know that we use these performances in order to prepare other venues, and so these people are getting very high level performances of great music that we've worked very hard on, and it really is a fantastic scenario, because it also trains us to deal with any unforeseen aspect of acoustics or people falling out of their chair or whatever else. I mean, by the time you get on the stage in front of hundreds of people, like you've experienced it all. So I think those are the three main things. Get the administrators involved, find the resources for places and instruments and teachers to be there, and then finally figure out a way that we can get the young people in there to be able to perform in a reproducible manner and show them that it's a possible thing that they'll be able to do for their lives.
Thank you so much, Fraser. That's really, really helpful. And thank you for being supportive and contributing to Radical Connections. I look forward to performing with you in these settings.
I look forward to it getting back going again as soon as possible. Take care, Carol. Thank you very much, and good luck, everyone. Hope you have a wonderful day.
So is it the next Slido question now? Are we, no, Carol, it's you.
Yep, we're on to the next question.
Okay.
We are going over time, so if you have to leave, we totally understand. But if you can participate, we're going to make this quick. This the question that one of our advisors, we had a group of wise women who were our advisors, and Dr. Liz Lowen, who brings perspective from her decades. She's a nurse working as a senior leader in digital health. She's a wannabe artist. I think she's a real artist. And also she's somebody living with early onset Parkinson's, which is a degenerative neurological disorder that often requires long-term care in later stages. She asks today's audience, in a word or short phrase, what kind of culture experience would be most important to your quality of life if you were entering long-term care as a patient today? I think it's often, that's most of us think, well, we won't need it or we won't go there. But just imagine you actually have to, because it does happen for people. What cultural experiences would enrich your life and be important? I love the tactile things. I think textures are really important. Singing, I have to say, when somebody comes in as a physician or as a nurse, you have to care for people who can have profound dementia and not really understand what you're doing, and you're doing something that's very invasive when you're either doing a physical exam or you're cleaning somebody. And just the bit of singing to them while you're doing that will often make a huge difference. I know music care is, in the moment, I think it has a huge impact. Getting people dancing is big. But workshops, dance. Okay. We are now going to go on to the last Slido question, which CJ, I'll hand over to you to introduce the last one. Thank you so much to everybody for participating and being with us. I was honored to see the huge numbers of people here.
Well, we'd like to be able to hear from all of you. Once again, you can answer in the chat or on the Slido or later down the road by connecting with us through the website. In order to succeed in our mission to transform healthcare with all kinds of artists, what does Radical Connections need to prioritize?
Can I ask a question? Whoops, sorry.
What does Radical Connections need to prioritize in order to succeed in our mission? Someone had asked before, what is radical about it? Well, radical in terms of the root systems in nature. Roots exchange information and make trees and all living things stable and help them to grow. So the roots, the meaning of roots, the idea of hybrid root systems is really important. It's kind of a key concept of Radical Connections, what we're doing today. But the mission is to break through silos and to have it be part of normal society where artists have gainful employment, working in centers of health where they are respected and celebrating elders, where they can inspire elders, make more lovely workplaces for the people who are caregivers, which I know, for instance, the work of Oscar or what I've been involved in for the past few years has done. What do you think we need to prioritize? There are many ways to go. It's a growing movement. We see it happening in some countries, especially the UK. What do we need to prioritize to make it happen? Or to make it grow across both sectors?
CJ, I think we might have had a question, somebody from the who's joining us who turned on their microphone to ask. I don't know if that person
Yes,
still wants to
please go ahead.
speak your question out loud.
Hi, thank you. I recognize some nice faces and names here. I work at the Ottawa Art Gallery, and I have attended many of your events pre-COVID about Arts Health Network Ottawa. I guess what I think is needed, it's really, as you mentioned before, CJ, it's like the breaking down of silos and disciplines. So we need, I hope COVID can allow us to get together in person again, because I think just like getting together with folks with different backgrounds it's ripe for cross-pollination. Yeah, it's just like demystifying, right? I'm in the arts world, so sometimes someone might say something about biology and I'm like, where's my spleen? I don't know, but I took all the arts classes and I can make a whole room full of people feel welcome. So I feel like we all have these different skills, and just getting together to work together and fill in all the gaps. What did I want to say? I think I'm still a little bit like, what is this? So you're trying to make a dating site for health professionals and artists to mingle and then get
I look at,
helping
yes,
each other? So it's happening?
matchmaking, open source, not setting up competitions between institutions. For me, as an artist who's been working in public art, since I have started to work in St. Vincent, and since we have applied for funding and hit walls in certain areas, I think the whole idea of public space being considered to be commercial strips or parks or open space is a misnomer. I think that, especially considering the demographic, we need to consider who are the underserved parts of the population. And these people have no access to culture, or very rare access to culture. And this needs to change. Went in to visit a friend of ours, a dear man from Wakefield, and he was in a room with nothing on the wall to look at. And he was bedridden and in critical care after a double lung transplant. And there was not even so much as a postcard on the wall. And, you know, when galleries come into play and they talk about public art for hospitals, it's normally famous people in the lobby, but that's not the space. That is only one small section of what the spaces are. The hallways could be thematic exhibitions. The work, you know, I spoke to a curator Prophet at Carleton, and when I talked to her about having collaborative curatorial, having hospital situations be places where curators could come to work, she goes, oh, well, you know, everybody who's in curating wants to work at the Ottawa Art Gallery or the Public Art Program. Well, what is wrong? And I don't know if there are even any academic educators here today. What is wrong with the capital A art world that academics are not attending this kind of thing? And we are supposed to be concerned about the role of art in society. Being concerned about the role of art in society is not getting another line on your CV at a prestigious artist-run center. And that's a really hard thing to say, but I'm 65, I've been watching it all my life, and I was an outsider when I started to work with blue-collar workers. But now you cannot enter a public art competition where you're not asked the question, how will you engage the public? Well, this is the largely underserved public, and they need to be respected. I should stop because I can go on.
I hear you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? I think relationships are really important. Like one of the programs I've been working on, and I want to clarify, I'm at the Ottawa Art Gallery. We're a free public institution, not the National Gallery. That's a different game. So the programs that I'm working my title is curator, community access. So I work with all kinds of folks. And one program is called Creative Space. And I did a presentation with you all right before COVID on this program with a woman who's a recreational therapist at the Royal. So we started this program 5 years ago. We're working with folks who have been in the live-in program, living with mental illness. And then as they like integrate into community, they would come to a drop-in art, creative, free food, free materials, artist-led studio situation. And because we've maintained that relationship, we've been working together for 5 years. She just invited me to come do a mural with patients. So, but it'll be the patients who are making work in their space. And I think this, you're kind of touching upon that, where it's like, don't just put a famous person's artwork in the lobby, like make it meaningful for folks for the communities you wish to serve, right? Like
It's exactly it. And it is about the relations. It's not just the activities. It's not just hearing music. It's the relations that develop. And that's partly why our name is Radical Connections. It's actually making those relationships happen.
And I would love to see this mentioned in educational institutions from high school right up through university. I know that there is a program at Centennial College. It's a postgrad course for community artists, because there are a lot of people who want to work in an activist framework, but it just is not, in very rare places, is even community arts, let alone arts in healthcare or arts with seniors. It's almost seen as like, oh, you're working with seniors. It's like, oh, you're teaching kids. Well, that's not a problem. That is a very rich and critical use of creative energy. So there's a problem with academia for sure. Not in Toronto, but here.
Oh, I want to just point out one really good academic connection I have. They're called READY. I'll just type it in the chat. READY stands for Research, Education, Accessibility, Design, and Inclusion. And it's an NSERC funded 3-university bazillion-dollar thing that's been going on for years. And I've been a community collaborator number of years. So I get a group of grad students in, usually one, sometimes two per year, and they immerse themselves in a program. They're attending along, and then they also do literature reviews, surveys, and interviews with participants. And then we get this great final report and action items. And then it's good because I'm a loud person at my gallery who's always like, this isn't up to speed, this isn't up to code, this isn't accessible. And everyone's used to me being like, "Mer, mer, 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 mer." But then when I get this nice document, I'm like, the university student said, blunk, it gives me more clout to make change. And so I would highly recommend reaching out to READY folks if you want a positive academic.
Yes,
That sounds good. Yeah.
and go ahead, Carol.
I just want to shout out to my academic folks right now. I'm just finishing my MBA with Rotman, a global executive MBA in healthcare and the life sciences. It's a mouthful, but a lot of my class and my profs were here listening and participating through chats. So thank you to them. I think there's a significant role. We do have to get academics in, both to get students as well as research happening in the field.
Mm-hmm. And we should probably point out, Carol, that there is it's quoted from a bunch of times in our website. It is what is the name of that very long title? Anyways, there is a long document that was a research project done last summer, just published through Bria Research Institute, and we can give long copies of that out to anybody who wants it. Or if you just hit on the website, it just takes you to the abstract. So that's a good way.
Yeah, and what we can do, CJ and Carol, is we can gather all the different resources that were shared in the chat and also like during the session today, and email them out to anybody who registered, so that you can expect to have all of these in your inbox tomorrow.
That's great.
Feverishly trying to take down notes.
Yeah, I feel like this is good. I feel like something that's really needed in this area is like just a full-on survey of what is happening, because sometimes I find when I'm chatting with folks that we're just like reproducing similar programs, and it would be so much easier to share resources and not be replicating. And you know,
you mentioned that you had something told us about it, or we are not arts and health. And I, as just an individual artist, I was always trying to find out what they were doing. And then I know that there was a branch in the West, and then I had attended one or two things locally. But Radical Connections is something new, which hopes to just be kind of an open source. And we do have a link to Suzanne Valois' work, but if any links that you want to share, we will find and organize, because, you know, I think that we can think globally and act and function locally. And I know that there are even people that are from the Quebec side that are watching this today, just because that's where I live, and I've talked to them about it. So, and we look to Belgium and Holland and the UK. So you know, we're having conversations across oceans and across time, across disciplines and sectors. I think so I thank you for coming. Thank you very much for coming today and sharing your knowledge with us. You are a radical partner.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, CJ and Carol, for sharing your project with us and for including us in the launch. And I'm just so excited by the work that you two are doing. And and I guess I'll get my colleague Alex to just drop into the chat, because I know that your emails, if people want to get in touch with you, are your newly minted emails are carol@radicalconnections.ca and cj@radicalconnections.ca. So if Alex, you want to type that out and include it in the chat, that would be grand. But I, again, will include this in a follow-up email sent out tomorrow. So if folks want to be in touch with either CJ or Carol, or both of them, about anything that was talked about today, any ideas, I know that they're very, very, very keen to hear from you.
Carol and I park in the same brains sometimes. So we're not, there's a body there and a body here, but it's like,
so to the both of you, is there anything else that you want to say before we wrap things up?
No, just thank you to everybody. Just that's it
for your time.
Yeah,
amazing. Well, thanks again for joining us. Just so you know, we do have another event happening as part of our symposium at 5 today. It's called The Future Awaits Young Artist Panel. So this is a session put on by Mask, the artist Claudia Salguero, and the Ottawa Art Gallery, and two grade 3-4 artists, Clara and Zumo, who worked on creating a mural that's now in display at the art gallery that asks kind of what does the future look like? And essentially they're going to be brainstorming together the future of our dreams, kind of taking suggestions from the audience and reacting to them, and having a conversation between artists and between Claudia and these two young artists. So that will be on Zoom, but also will be broadcast on live on Facebook as well at 5. All right, thank you so much. I really wish everyone an awesome end to your Wednesday, and until we connect again.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar and Kim.
You can go to the Ottawa Art Gallery and see the mural. We're free. We're open. Ciao. I appreciate it.